Welcome back to Everyday Race. Today I'm going to start assembling my turbo engine for my 2005 Kawasaki Zx10r. So in today's episode I'm just going to work on my lower cases and I'm going to install the transmission. So let me go ahead and move the upper cases and let's get started. Alright, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to install my input shaft of my transmission. Before I do that, I need to measure the gear groove. That's where the shift fork goes in. It shouldn't be any bigger than 6.15 millimeter. If it's over 6.25 millimeters, you need to find another input shaft because the fork would be loose and your transmission isn't going to work correctly. So mine are right on the money, right at 6.1 millimeter. So to install it, I'm going to move my lower case and I'm going to slide the transmission right in the hole like so. It should move very easily. Next, I'm going to install the input shaft cover. I've already put a little bit of oil on the seal. You need to line up this pin with this hole. So it looks something like this. It moves very easy. Next, install 3 10mm bolts. And torque them down to 18 foot-pounds. Alright, next I'm going to install a shift drum. Before I do that, make sure the bearings are in good shape. Put a little bit of oil in them. And next you need to measure the grooves. You've got 3 shift grooves. That's where the shift forks go in like so, and they're supposed to slide. Shift drum grooves should be anywhere from 8.05 to 8.20 millimeters. If it's anything over 8.3 millimeters, you need to find a new shift drum. I've already measured mine, and mine are 8.11 millimeters, so that's within the specs. To install it, I'm going to move the case over like so and install the shift drum just like this. It should look just like this. Very easy to move. Okay, next I'm going to install the shift fork. Before I install it, you need to measure shift fork ear thickness. It should be between 5.9 and 6 millimeters. If it's below 5.8 millimeters, you need to replace the fork. Okay, another thing to measure is a shift fork guide pin diameter. It should be anywhere between 7.9 and 8 millimeters. If the shift fork guide pin is less than 7.8 millimeters, you need to find another shift fork. Last but not least, you need to visually inspect it and make sure that the shift fork isn't bent, that it's 90 degrees to the shaft, and this one looks perfect. So let's go ahead and install it. Going to put the shaft right in here, like so. Then I can install my shift fork. The guide pin goes in the groove of a shift drum, and the ears go in the groove of the input shaft. Okay, install it like so, and then install the shaft just like that. And it should look just like this. Okay, next I'm going to install shift drum bearing holder. I'm using 2 screws. I replaced them. This is a factory one. Every time I pull those out, they usually strip. So I picked up these stainless steel. Before they go in, you need to put a thread locker on them. I like to use the blue thread locker on them. Just put a little bit on there. 1, 2. Then the shift drum holder can go back in its place. Okay, the shift drum holder screws should be torqued down to 44 inch-pounds. Remember, those are inch-pounds, not foot-pounds. If you try to tighten them to 44 foot-pounds, you're probably going to break them. Alright, beautiful. Okay, next I'm going to install a gear positioning lever. I'm going to assemble it first with the bolt, washer, gear positioning lever, flat washer. I'm going to put blue thread locker on the threads as well. It's supposed to go like this. This part is really tricky. Then use 10mm socket. Make sure the wheel goes on the drum. Like so. Just hold it. Next, torque down the gear positioning lever bolt to 104 inch-pounds. And I'm going to check, make sure it's working correctly. Now we can kind of see how the transmission works. The shift fork right here, and this is a 5th and 6th gear. So as you move the drum, the drum moves the gears so they can shift in the next gear. Like so. Pretty cool. Alright, so this is working beautifully. I'm going to put it in neutral position. You can kind of see. Alright, next I'm going to install 2 upper forks, and you need to do the same thing. Measure the guide pins and measure the fork ear thickness. So the way they go in, as you can see, they're not like the other fork where the guide pin was right in the center. So you have to, looking from a clutch point of view, you're going to see that the guide pin is going to be closer to you, and number 4 is going to be facing the clutch side. Same thing on both shift forks. So going to do the same thing. Going to install just like so. That way you can see it. So 4 facing towards the clutch. You need to line up the guides with the grooves. Like so. One shaft. And then this guide will go on the groove that's all the way to the left. Same way. 4 facing the clutch side. There we go. Alright, next I'm going to install the shift shaft. But before I do that, it needs to be inspected. Make sure it's not bent. Make sure there isn't any damage. This looks good. Make sure the spring is in good shape. Make sure the arm is in good shape. It's moving freely. Make sure the spring doesn't have any breaks and it's not moving. On the block, you need to make sure that the bearing and the seal is in good shape. If it isn't, it would be a good time to replace them. So everything seems to be in good shape. So next I can install the shift shaft. So the way it looks is I got a spring, then I got a snap ring. Next I put the washer in. I put a little bit of oil on the shaft. Next you can go ahead and install it. It's going to go all the way like this. This bolt is going to go right in the middle. So pull it back a little bit. You can see this much better. So next, install another washer like so. Next, I got the snap ring. Use snap ring pliers. I like the ones with the 90-degree adapter on it. Put it in the hole like so. Put the snap ring in, and then carefully make sure this goes in like so. Next you just slide the washer all the way back, and then there's a slot for the snap ring. I'm going to go ahead and get the snap ring in place. She's in. That was really easy. So we're almost done. Now this is the output shaft. This is a factory 2005 output shaft, just like this input shaft, but it's been polished. It's finished. You can see it's somewhat shiny. Let me show you a comparison to what the stock one looks like. You can somewhat see the difference. Real smooth, and this one you can feel the machine finish, and the gears aren't shiny. So put the oil on the bearing. Like so. Then put the race. Make sure it doesn't have any damage. Install the seal. Make sure you can put some oil or some grease. Carefully. Okay, it goes in like so. Then also, I almost forgot, make sure you measure the grooves. The specs, there's 2 grooves for the shift forks, would be the same specs as for the input shaft. So next, go ahead and line up the grooves. Move the gears. And it's gonna look somewhat like this. There we go. The seal should be, you can move the seal. It should be right, flat, like so. This hole should be facing up, but since you can remove the output shaft, it's not really necessary right now. I just wanted to put it in so you could see what it looks like. Make sure you can see how things are moving. When you're going to be installing the upper case, there's going to be a slot for this hole. So this needs to line up or the cases will not go together. That and a small, I guess it's somewhat like a retainer clip would keep the transmission from moving side to side. So everything looks pretty good. Unfortunately, this is going to be it for today, but come back for the next stage of engine assembly for my Kawasaki Zx10r. Thank you for watching once again.